Good morning, kia ora, and welcome to Queenstown Airport here in beautiful Aotearoa, New Zealand. Today's a very special day. We're flying out of Queenstown Airport, which is one of the most beautiful airports in the whole world. It's also going to be a special significance for me today, as I'm essentially retiring my passport, which I've used for the last 10 years. It's barely a couple of weeks off being legal for most countries. Served me very well over the last 10 years. I've travelled well over 40 countries. Some countries have been quite easy to get into, some countries have been quite difficult. So yeah, it's been scrutinised by a lot of customs officials and immigration officials over the years. It's been through quite a few e-gates as well. So yeah, as soon as I get home, Monday morning, first thing first, I'll be renewing that passport straight away. So yeah, today I'm going to use that passport to leave New Zealand for one final time and then arrive back into Australia for one final time. So yeah, without further ado, more about today's flight. We're flying with Virgin Australia on a Boeing 737-800 in economy class. It's a reward seat, booked with points. It was all free, so that's really good. Yeah, it's going to be about a 3 hour and 20-minute flight over to Sydney today. Virgin only operates to Queenstown here in New Zealand, which is a bit unfortunate. And they have a pretty limited route network internationally overall, just to Queenstown and a few South Pacific destinations. So without further ado, let's head into the terminal now, get checked in. I believe I've got lounge access here with priority pass at the Manaia Lounge, so I'll check out that. So yeah, I'll see you once we're in the terminal. So before we check in for today's flight, just a little bit of information about the route and also the airport itself. So Queenstown is a resort town located amongst the Southern Alps of the Otago region of the South Island, New Zealand. Today we're going to be flying up to Sydney. It's around 2,000 kilometre journey as the crow flies, and we're going to be flying in a generally northwesterly direction across the Tasman. Gazetted flight time is 3 hours and 20 minutes, although this flight is often done in under 3 hours. The town of Queenstown itself has a population of only around 15,000 people, but the wider Queenstown Lakes district has a population around 40,000 people. Despite this relatively small population, Queenstown Airport, servicing such a massive winter and summer tourism industry, actually has an international airport. It's actually the fourth largest in the whole of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and it services around 1.5 million people last year. From Queenstown, you can fly to all major cities and regional centres all around New Zealand, and there's a magnitude of international flights across the Tasman operated by Air New Zealand, Jetstar, Qantas and Virgin Australia as we're flying today. So very, very impressive for a town with only 15,000 population to have an international airport like this. Without further ado, let's get checked in for today's flight to Sydney. So yeah, I must admit, Virgin Australia here at Queenstown, it does seem rather aggregated for the times, to be honest. Maybe it's because Virgin Australia haven't fully resumed their full route network here in New Zealand. But yeah, there was no automated check-in or bag drop kiosks available. This meant there was a fairly lengthy wait at a manual counter to drop off my bag today, and for this flight it seemed like most passengers, myself included, were merely transiting in Sydney to other destinations in Australia or even to third countries internationally. So yeah, it was a pretty heavy workload for the agents as they were checking all different sorts of documents for all the different travellers. Some countries people were travelling to still had COVID requirements and all that sort of stuff. There was an agent sort of checking in with people ahead of time in the queue, so this helped a little bit. But yeah, overall it was quite a slow, quite a complicated process, to be honest. On the upside, I was operated a complimentary upgrade to an exit row seat. It was a little bit reluctant initially because I didn't want to kind of give up my window seat, but they assured me it'd still be a window seat, so I gladly took it. So yeah, couldn't really complain. I was given essentially an economy X seat without having to pay, so that was really, really cool. So yeah, with that rather slow and old-fashioned check-in process out of the way, it's time to head airside here at Queenstown Airport. There's two sections at Queenstown Airport, one for domestic and one for international. So yeah, we just have to go through the international one today. Unless you're going to the Air New Zealand Lounge or something interesting like that first, you can just go straight through the international side. Very easy indeed. They've got their e-gates here at Queenstown, and then that only took a couple moments, and security a few more, so very, very easy. Now we're airside. You can see there's beautiful views of the tarmac, absolutely amazing. But yeah, we're going to head up to the Manaia Lounge now. So this small lounge is the only lounge here available airside internationally here at Queenstown Airport. We're getting in today courtesy of Lounge Key. If you are flying business class with Virgin Australia or Qantas, that will also get you in the door as well. And New Zealand do have a lounge, however that's in the domestic side of the terminal. So if you are flying internationally at Air New Zealand, you do have the hassle happening to exit the domestic and then go through the international as security ahead of your flight, so that's a bit of a hassle. Anyway, the lounge itself, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good lounge for what it's worth. When you're considering an international airport with just 15,000 people, it's impressive they just have a lounge, let alone international flights. So yeah, it was small, it's a good range of comfortable seating options. It's a fairly satisfactory range of complimentary food and beverage options. Probably not going to win any awards for, its lavish food and beverage. Doesn't have the most extensive amenities. But yeah, the staff really couldn't be faulted. They had exceptional enthusiasm. The customer service was really good. And yeah, it was a really pleasant retreat. I found it before my flight back to Australia. So yeah, overall really enjoyed my couple hours here at the Manaia Lounge. What better time now as I farewell my couple of weeks here in New Zealand with one of Dunedin's famous Spates Gold Medal Ale and also another citrusy, quite a tasty sort of New Zealand pale ale. Let's have a look at today's aircraft right here from the lounge, as it's literally only metres away from the gate. So our Virgin Australia plane is just about to arrive inbound from Sydney. So yeah, today we're flying on a Virgin Australia Boeing 737-800, Victor Hotel, Yankee India Juliet, first delivered direct Virgin Australia, registered in May 2012, delivered in July 2012, puts this aircraft at around 13 years of age at the time I'm taking this flight. So yeah, this aircraft has been operated by Virgin Australia for the entirety of its life. So yeah, the great thing about this Manaia Lounge is you're really right in front of the gate. It's really going to be impossible to miss your flight from this lounge, as you can literally see our plane landing, coming into the gate, passengers disembarking, and then you'll see all the action. You'll certainly know when it's time to board. On top of that, the really friendly lounge attendant also comes around to personally farewell everyone and remind them when it's time to board their flight. So that was really good. now, as we only got a few minutes before we begin boarding our flight over to Sydney today. Just a friendly reminder and a very warm welcome to the channel. For those who are new to the channel, very warm welcome. For those returning to the channel, welcome back. My name is Stephen. I produce lots and lots of flight reviews, aviation content, travel content, walking tours, driving tours, all that sort of stuff. If you do enjoy my content, whatever that may be, really appreciate you do give it a like, subscribe to the channel and engage with the channel. Just motivates me to produce better and better content for you guys. Also just helps that YouTube algorithm a little bit more as well, just so more people can see my content as well. So that is really, really much appreciated. But yeah, we are about to begin boarding now. Queenstown Airport has no aero bridges, so you will have to walk out onto the tarmac to board your flight, whether it's international or domestic. It is a pretty wintry, pretty cold day out there today, not far off snowing to be honest, but yeah, those views are absolutely amazing. One of the most scenic airports in the world, so not a bad trade-off for those views. So yeah, it is a short walk out over to the tarmac, admiring those spectacular views. But yeah, once on board, today we are flying a Boeing 737-800, very much a stalwart Virgin aircraft, very much what the same aircraft that flies around Australia. So yeah, the economy class layout is in a free configuration, although there's a small two-row 2-2 configuration of business class at the pointy end of the plane. So yeah, Virgin's Boeing 737-800 aircraft accommodates a total of 176 seats, which standard economy seats. They offer a fairly narrow seat pitch of 30-inch and a width of 17-inch. Today, I wasn't expecting it, but I am sitting in economy X seat, aka an emergency exit row seat. These are located in rows 3 to 5, 13 and 14. Virgin Australia claim these seats come up with up to 40% extra legroom. I'm not really sure it's 40% extra legroom where I'm sitting today, but you certainly do notice the extra legroom. Very, very comfortable indeed. Certainly plenty of room to stretch my legs, and you can get out of the row without your seat neighbour having to get up. So that's really, really good. Other than that, it's your pretty standard black leather seating livery with Virgin Australia and their Boeing 737-800. Pretty comfortable seat overall, and they come equipped with a fairly standard tray back table. There's no IFE screen inbuilt. Other than that, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty quiet flight today, surprisingly, probably only around half full. So yeah, I'm not totally surprised why I was offered an exit row seat. So yeah, should be a really comfortable flight today over to Sydney, at least in terms of it not being too busy. But yeah, for now, what better time now just to sit back, relax, enjoy the stunning scenes as we taxi out to the runway here at Queenstown Airport. And yeah, just admire the spectacular views for the next few minutes as we take off out of Queenstown. And then yeah, once in the air, I'll then start giving my thoughts and assessments on Virgin Australia's in-flight service and other aspects of the flight. So yeah, just sit back, relax and enjoy for the next little bit.
Well, thanks for joining us on our flight to Sydney. My name is Stacey and I'd like to introduce you to the rest of the team. In the flight deck is your captain Robert Edney and First Officer Daniel Gray. Your crew in the cabin up the front is Joanna. In the middle is Chelsea, towards rear is Maya. While we know some of you flying often would appreciate it if you pause your devices and give the crew your full attention for the safety demonstration.
Pull the strap to tighten. Once you're outside the aircraft, pull down on the red toggles to inflate, and for more air, blow into the mouthpieces. To find out the brace positions and other important safety information, check the safety instruction card in your seat pocket. Smoking, vaping and the use of e-cigarettes isn't allowed on board. This includes in the toilets, which have smoke detectors and alarms. seat, don't move the seat. Just sit tight and ask your crew for assistance. Finally, make sure your seat is upright, window blinds are open, tray tables put away, and all bags are under the seat in front of you. If your seat has a leg rest or device holder, ensure they are stowed and all devices are unplugged. The crew is here.
Now that we're airborne, it's going to be a few minutes until the in-flight service begins. Pity it's been a little bit overcast on our departure out of Queenstown this morning, so the views haven't been as spectacular as I was hoping, but they're still pretty good nonetheless. So a few moments the in-flight service will begin. So let's first have a look at the in-flight entertainment offerings on Virgin Australia. So unfortunately they don't have in-seat IFE screens or free publicly accessible Wi-Fi on their flights for economy class passengers. However, they do have the streaming to your own device service, which does extend to international flights, which is really good. Certainly access this stream to your own device service on numerous Virgin flights over the years. It's always a pretty decent service, to be honest. It's got a pretty reasonable, not the most extensive, but it's a pretty solid range of TV shows and movies. And you also got the in-flight moving map as well, so you can keep appraised of the journey duration of your flight. For today's flight, I just did watch a few videos on my own laptop. However, I did shortlist a 4-part Richard Branson's documentary series to watch on my flight back to Perth from Sydney later this evening, which was a really excellent series and really was the perfect length series to watch for a flight from Sydney to Perth. In terms of the in-flight food and beverage service, Virgin Australia very much have scaled down their complimentary food and beverage post-COVID-19. But these days you do still get complimentary tea and coffee and water, but that's pretty much it. Everything else you have to pay for from a buy on board menu. That's of course if you're flying economy class. The buy on board menu itself has a pretty good range of non-alcoholic and alcoholic drink options, and a good range of snacks as well. Not too much in the way of substantial meal options, however. Prices are pretty standard as to what you would expect for a buy on board airline menu in Australia, so pretty well is what it is. There's no ordering from a screen or ordering from an app. You very much still have to order from the trolley when it comes down the aisle, the old-fashioned way, or you can just press the call button, presumably. So yeah, a little bit behind the times, but it is what it is. It's just my personal opinion, but I reckon Virgin Australia need to be a little bit more innovative, especially on their Trans-Tasman flights, just to be a little bit more competitive, simply because they're in a strange spot between sort of budget carrier Jetstar, Air New Zealand, which offer kind of flight bundles on their Trans-Tasman flights, and obviously the full service Qantas. So yeah, I reckon if Virgin offer sort of all-inclusive bundles on these flights where you pay an extra $50 or something and you get an included meal and complimentary drinks, you know, luggage, all that sort of stuff, like Air New Zealand's the works, I reckon that would really just make Virgin Australia a little bit more competitive on these routes. At the moment, I just see Virgin Australia is kind of in a tricky position. It's not quite a budget carrier, but it's not really a full service carrier either. It just kind of replicates the Air New Zealand model, where it's kind of an unbundled approach, but you can bundle up for it to be like a full service airline, or you can just have more of a low cost budget experience. I think that, you know, caters well to a wider audience, and I think that will be a good way for Virgin Australia to really re-establish itself in the New Zealand Trans-Tasman market. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. So yeah, for me, I think Virgin, I've really enjoyed Virgin. It's been a great airline, especially before COVID. Really enjoyed flying on their, you know, wide bodies between Perth and the East Coast. They offered a really exceptional service, which was on par with Qantas. So yeah, I think it's just in the post-COVID era, Virgin just need to go back to their roots and, you know, offer saying that, you know, sets them apart from their competitors. So whether it's, you know, putting the Maxes on this route or you know, having an innovative bundle approach like Air New Zealand, they just need to do something that sets them apart from, you know, budget carrier Jetstar, you know, and full service carrier Qantas. That's all they need to do to try and succeed on the route, in my opinion.
If you feel sick and have a fever, cough, sore throat, or are having difficulty breathing, please tell a crew member now. This will protect you, your family, and other members of the community. Make your arrival into Australia as easy as possible. Just declare it.
So yeah, putting my thoughts on the Virgin Australia in-flight service aside, it's been a pretty uneventful flight. It's been a comfortable, pleasant, smooth crossing over the Tasman today. It's only taken us a couple of hours to cross the Tasman, and just like that, we're just about to start our descent into Sydney Kingsford Smith International Airport, where we're going to be landing a little bit ahead of schedule, which is really much appreciated. So for now, what better time just to sit back, relax, enjoy our lovely winter afternoon arrival into Sydney today, and then once on the ground, I'll offer my final thoughts and AJ AussieJetsetter Score Index for this flight. So overall, in summing up today's flight, it was a pretty pleasant experience across the Tasman today with Virgin Australia. Probably the best part that I forgot to mention earlier was that I booked it with points as a reward seat for only 21,000 points plus tax. That's all the way from Queenstown to Perth via Sydney, which is an absolute steal considering if you booked either of the two segments individually, it'd be 18,000 points alone. So either way you look at it, either the Queenstown to Sydney or the Sydney to Perth leg is basically only going to cost an extra 3,000 points when booking it together. So yeah, overall I do think that, however, there is a few aspects that Virgin Australia do need to improve on, especially when it comes to their Trans-Tasman experience post-COVID 2023. With such a limited market presence these days in New Zealand, only operating flights to Queenstown, I really do think the airline needs to expand their flights to New Zealand to really make it worthwhile for them. I think at the moment kind of their ground handling experience is let down a little bit, and I also think they're in a kind of a strange position. They're not quite a budget carrier, but they're not quite a full service carrier as well. So I think they just need to innovate a little bit more, maybe be a bit more like Air New Zealand, and offer more of an unbundled or bundled up approach so people can have more of a cost effective or a more fully inclusive option, whatever way they feel. I reckon that's the way to go for Virgin Australia. Without further ado, let's hand down the AussieJetsetter Score Index for this flight. Let's start with ground handling first. Wasn't the best experience, to be honest, with Virgin Australia today. Only give them about 10 out of 20. Thought the whole check-in process at Queenstown was a rather antiquated process. Everything being manually done in 2023 was a little bit of a step backwards for the airline. Obviously, with so limited flights only to Queenstown in New Zealand, the airline obviously hasn't fully restored its ground handling infrastructure yet in New Zealand post-pandemic. Also, when I arrived in Sydney as well, the transfer desk for international to domestic was left unattended, despite we being told in Queenstown that it would be open. So there, that was a bit of a letdown as well. So I had to lug my luggage over to the other terminal and check in there. It's not the end of the world because I was still going to have to take the public T-bus over to the domestic terminal anyway. But yeah, really think just the fact that it communicated it would be open when it wasn't open was a bit poor on Virgin's side. And considering Qantas offer airside their own little transit shuttle between international and domestic terminals, I think the least Virgin can do is at least relieve you of your luggage before you make your own way to the domestic terminal. So yeah, Qantas definitely wins in that regard. In terms of entertainment, I give Virgin Australia a solid 7 out of 10. They certainly don't have IFE screens or complimentary Wi-Fi for economy class passengers, but the stream to your own device service has always been a pretty solid entertainment offering in my opinion, and they also have the moving map. So yeah, it's a pretty adequate system for a 3-hour flight. So hard to complain there. In terms of the aircraft condition and also the seat, pretty hard to complain today as I was offered a Economy X, Emergency X row seat. The plane itself, they're pretty comfortable, the Virgin Australia Boeing 737-800s. Like if you are just flying in a standard economy class seat, the seat pitch is pretty tight at only 30 inch. But the seat itself is pretty comfortable. And yeah, it's a pretty modern looking cabin. So I give them a solid 15 out of 20. In terms of the crew and the in-flight service, really couldn't fault them today. Give them a solid 15 out of 20. Really friendly crew. The in-flight service itself is limited just to complimentary tea and coffee, but knew about that in advance, so that's to be expected. But you can buy more from the buy on board menu, so not a bad service overall, 15 out of 20. Finally, in terms of value for money, I paid 22,300 velocity points plus $55 in tax to get all the way from Queenstown to Perth with Virgin Australia. So this is absolutely exceptional value. I give the airline 18 out of 20. Can't really talk in terms if you'll pay cash, which would be a lot more. But yeah, for what I paid with points, it's an absolute steal. So as we exit an exceptionally quiet Sydney International Airport this afternoon, I hand out my final AussieJetsetter Score Index for this flight, which comes in at a respectable 72 out of 100. So overall, a pretty reasonable flight with Virgin Australia today, especially for the price I paid. With points, it was great value. I do think, however, there are certainly things Virgin Australia need to improve on, especially with their Trans-Tasman services, just so they can actually remain competitive in this market. Anyway, if you have enjoyed my flight review today, really appreciate it. Do give it a like, engage with the video, and of course subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button so you don't miss another one of my flight reviews. Got plenty on the channel, also got travel content, aviation stuff, walking tours, driving tours, all that sort of stuff as well. Going to Sri Lanka that next month, so plenty more flight reviews to come, plenty more content from there. Might travel to some other countries in Asia while I'm at it, so plenty to look forward to. In the meantime, if you haven't already, visit my website aussiejetsetter.com.au where you see all those flight reviews, industry news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks and more. Also got a Discord server and an Instagram account so you can keep up with my travels and short form content in real time. But yeah, until the next one, thank you very much for watching and safe travels wherever that might take you.